Okay, I think we're recording on YouTube, so if you guys want to start, we can.
Cool. Yeah, I'm ready. I'll say the opening prayer.
Okay.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the opportunity to discuss this week's activities from our family class, and we thank you for the opportunities to learn and grow and to further our education. And please bless that we can fill with thy spirit this day and ask thee these things and say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, should we just start normal again? Ashlyn, do you want to start?
I like that idea. I don't know if she likes that idea.
Yeah, if you ever don't speak up, it's a consistent group we're in.
Wonder if she's there. She was just here.
Uh-oh. Back to square one.
She says she's logged in. Oh,
Guys,
there
I'm
she
so
is.
sorry.
There she is.
I did not have my sound on, and I was fixing something for my little boy, and then I saw that you guys were talking, and I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
No worries.
Just glad you're
So
there.
we said a prayer, and then we were saying, asking if you wanted to start, and we said if you ever don't want to start, just pipe in, because I think that's the group we're.
Okay, no, I can totally start, and I'm so sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad also that we have to do this early. I had no idea, and the kids get out of school early, and like right in the middle of one of our classes, and so I have to go pick them up because it's raining, and I'm so sorry.
No worries at all. And like Tony said, I think that was plenty of time in advance that it's not a problem.
Yeah, I just hope she didn't lose her phone or something. But recording it, I'm gonna record it, and she'll be able to see it. And if she would like to comment, she can. So.
Okay. So I can totally start, and I'm just looking at the activities. Okay. So I did the activity. If you're married, discuss how many children you hope to have and the timing of those children. Discuss how this might impact the experiences each of you likely have upon children upon you individually and upon the marriage. So I did this activity with my husband, obviously, and it was just interesting talking. So I've only been married for about 13, 14 months. I'm not quite sure. But it's kind of this time in our life where we're both working full time and we're making money, and I mean, I won't be finishing up school, but where we're still kind of like, we want to go and travel together, and we kind of enjoy, both having two incomes, and we kind of enjoy the freedom of not having to take care of other kids and other people. So we kind of are talking about, if we would have kids or when, because we kind of enjoy this time, and obviously reading a lot about in this class. I don't want to say makes me feel guilty, because I mean, I want to have kids, but sometimes it makes me feel guilty because I keep saying, I want to wait. But so my husband and I discussed the timing, and as I kind of shared, so what did I teach my husband? I kind of just shared kind of some principles that we learned about why we are designed to have children, or why parents are, like, what roles parents are supposed to have. And I think a lot of the activities a lot of the things that we read in this class kind of changed myself and my mindset. And that at times I think that children will just become kind of like a burden or in the way of, quote unquote, my life, that I wanted to live. But I love, I forget where I read it. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. It says something along the lines of that children aren't, you guys can help me out if I'm totally wrong. But that like children aren't a burden, and that at times, oh my gosh, I'm so sad that I totally forgot what it was. Okay, so it's something along the lines of that, like children aren't a burden, and that it's not necessarily our time. It's not really our decision, to decide, I'm going to wait so many years to have a child, but that if we counsel with the Lord, that He will be able to help us know when to have kids. And so with my husband, I was discussing this, and I don't think we've always, kind of done, well, we should have kids in 3 years, or we should have kids in 5 years, but I don't think we've ever actually like sat down and like consulted with the Lord and kind of like presented our plan to Him of how we want to become financially stable and all of those types of things in order to have kids. And so, I just think from this experience, it really helped my husband and I to be able to understand more of how we should go about it, instead of just kind of throwing out hypothetically saying we should have kids, but more of like a plan that we could like discuss with Heavenly Father. And then we kind of like the question, learn, activity, ask. We discussed more of the impact that having children will have upon us individually and upon our marriage. And sometimes I think that, like I said, it takes out on more of the worldly things of like being able to go and travel and spend money on yourself and spend money on worldly things. But I think if we read the proclamation and we kind of focus on why God designed us, which is to multiply and replenish the earth, and not only that, but to raise them in righteousness, then making the decision to have kids, once we understand that concept, making the decision to have kids, I think will help push us along and see it as a more positive aspect. And so that's kind of just like what my husband and I, the experience that we had was more of like we need to step down from, we need to repent of our worldly thoughts of, like, oh, let's not have kids because we'll miss out on doing this, that, and this and that. And kind of just look at it more of like let's present the plan to Heavenly Father, and let's follow the counsel of our prophets and of Heavenly Father's plan, to look at it as more of a spiritual role and spiritual duty to rear these kids, or rear the children that we're going to have in the gospel. So that was kind of just like our experience. This class kind of makes me, not that my husband and I don't talk about it, this class kind of makes me think and talk about things that I think right now, I always think that I'm not like an adult necessarily. I'm only 22. But I mean, I made a big adult decision, like getting married and all these things. And so this class kind of makes me step out of my shell and really think about the reality of my future that's coming up. And so I really enjoyed this experience. But yeah.
Well, that's cool that you go ahead, Jamie.
I was just gonna say, I think that's really cool, and that's great that it was such a cool experience. And I think as we consult with the Lord in our things, or in, and especially things like this, I think He'll help us, if the time is now that you're supposed to have kids, then I think that the atonement plays such a huge role in it too, in as like a sanctifier, and He can help us just, not even feel like traveling and those other kind of worldly thoughts to be a priority. But if the plan is to have kids later on, then we can be content in our decision as we travel in various different things, knowing that we're doing exactly what the Lord has in mind. So I don't really know if that makes sense, but I think as we confide in the Lord and know that our plan is upon what the Lord would have us do, then no matter the plan, then we just feel more content with our decisions.
Yeah, I agree. You sounded like me like 7 years ago right now, Ashlyn, because we thought we had the same mindset. But instead of traveling, ours was furnishing our home. Like We wanted to have couches, table, you know, everything furnished before we had children. And here I am almost 30 and I still only have one child. And I look back to my parents, how many kids did they have when they were my age? And they already had like 3 of them. And I was like, man, I'm falling behind. Um, and then we had the miscarriage happen, and it just really changed my perspective. And I was like, wow, here I was thinking, you know, to delay having children. And now that I've had this experience, it's like, man, I wish I could have had, you know, children earlier, because every year that I wait now, I'm losing a little bit more of that opportunity or that window to have children. And it just keeps passing by quicker and quicker. Um, and you know, I still hope that in the future that I'll have the opportunity again. But I just know that the next 10 years it's going to go quick, and it needs to happen as soon as possible. You know, I hope I'm not one of the fathers that my children's friends look at and be like, hey, is that your grandpa? You know. I hope I'm not in that. I'm not saying that's a bad situation. I mean, everybody has their time, but it changed my point of view so much, flipped it around completely, and now I'm just like, man, I hope I can have children soon, and I don't care about anything else, because that time frame is rapidly passing me by.
Right. Well, and I think it's honestly also what you said, like not even just traveling, but there's just so many other things that you want to accomplish before you have kids. Like maybe have enough money to put a down payment on a house, or maybe, like you said, furnishing your house. There's so many things, and then you end up comparing yourself to your parents. You know, like, oh my gosh, when my mom was my age, she already had 2 children, and oh, am I not fulfilling the Lord's plan, or am I just being so like selfish and worldly? You know, and so I think there's a lot of that. But like you said, Jamie, where I feel like really, if you counsel with the Lord, when you do those things, when you wait, or when you travel, or when you earning money for a down payment on a house, you won't feel so guilty. You know what I'm saying? You won't feel so guilty that you're doing these things because you've already counseled with the Lord. And although, like Tony said, the time might be passing quickly, I think that Heavenly Father totally has us in mind and knows what will complete our family and who will complete our family. And so He'll give us those children the time that He thinks we're ready to have them. But anyways, yeah, that was my whole thing. Thank you guys for sharing.
Another comment about that, I think, like you said, I think it's so easy to compare to your parents or compare to other people that were maybe married around the same time or whatever it may be. But I think, again, as we counsel with the Lord, then we at least have confidence in the Lord, and really that's all that matters, because you know, you may receive criticism or doubts from other people, like, are you really doing the right thing? But as long as you have confidence that the Lord approves, then, you know, those things will just seem so minuscule and just really won't matter, because all that matters is that you're doing the right thing, and the right thing is different for everyone. So, cool. All right, well, I'll share my activity. So I did the one, interview your parents to get a sense of why they were thinking, or of how they were thinking and what motivated them as parents. Ask about their parenting styles and objectives and how effectively they believe they followed their own ideal or model. Ask about their greatest challenges and joys they experienced as parents. Finally, ask what words of wisdom they might wish to share with younger upcoming parents. Compare their words with your own observations. You may choose to write a letter expressing your appreciation for what they have done as parents. So I talked to my parents and then talked a little bit longer with my mom about it specifically. So the main principle that they parent on is teach correct principles and let them govern themselves, which is very authoritative. And I don't know, I feel very blessed to have them as my parents and to have the opportunities and experiences that I did have because they were authoritative. So a few things that my stepdad, he emphasized how important scripture study is, and how it really does make a huge difference. They notice a huge difference when it's not done, and just to focus family life completely around the gospel and to make going to church a priority every single week. And that was something that they said. I know we've talked about that a lot in this class, is consistency. And that was something they really emphasized, is just being consistent in habits. And before my parents were married, or before my mom and stepdad were married, my stepdad, they were kind of in this habit. He just, would go to church everyone. If they weren't feeling like going to church, he would just stay home. And they just didn't go consistently. But they went quite a bit, but not consistently. And then it's just so easy for the kids to play that against them. And it just causes a mess. And so that was something that over time, Gary has really come to be firm in and have a testimony of, its consistency and really making the gospel, especially, a consistent practice. One of the biggest challenges of parenting for Gary, he said, it's time. He works so much to provide, and it's just hard finding time or finding that balance between work and being a good parent. But sometimes, or somehow, he magically, does it, even working 80 hours a week sometimes. And then my mom, another thing, kind of with work and money has always been stressful for them with parenting. But another one is just one-on-one time, and especially with how many kids there are, she just, wishes that there were more opportunities for one-on-one time, but she tries to take advantage of whatever time there is, whether it be, giving a ride to someone, and just trying to make that quality time. Some of the greatest lessons they've learned is that every kid is different. And that the most important thing is that they know each kid individually, to know how, know their temperament and know what kind of disciplinary actions they need to take, and still do it with love. And I don't think that can be done if you don't really know your kids. I asked my mom what some of the greatest joys of parenting are for her, and I loved it. She said late night talks, kids crawling into my bed in the morning, laughing, playing games, especially board and card games together, eating together around the dinner table. When her kids find that their siblings are their very best friends. She said, I could go on forever, but truthfully, my greatest joy is seeing my children gain confidence in themselves as they choose to walk in truth and with the Lord. So that was cool. And then overall, they said something that they would counsel to younger parents is to just make scripture study a priority and be consistent. And then also just Hakuna Matata. They said, don't take things too seriously, don't cry over spilled milk. And then, so part of the activity said, finally ask compare their words with your own observation. For me, I felt like they were pretty consistent in their parenting style. Just kind of observing their parenting style with, all of the other siblings too. I think sometimes it's more authoritarian, but I know that they try so hard to be consistent, and to just discipline with love. And it's hard, it's hard to observe completely because we are so different. Sometimes I think it comes across as authoritarian to me when they discipline other kids, but I don't know, the actions that we're led to, their harshness or whatever it may be. So it's kind of unfair to judge, but I don't know. Overall, I think they do a pretty good job of being authoritative, and I'm grateful for that. I think so many experiences and learning experience that I had were because they were authoritative. I remember in high school, I would go on some just small Utah road trips, just down south or whatever. I would go with a friend, and so often, like, we would try to get other friends to come along, and their parents just wouldn't let them. They just, like, no exception, like, they just weren't going, and they just weren't allowed. And I just was always so grateful for my parents that they were willing to let me, obviously it made them nervous, but they were willing to see beyond and see the importance of us kind of falling sometimes. Even they let us just, kind of do our own thing as we got older, but we're always there, and they would always correct us if necessary, and it was just very empowering. When I moved to Seattle just a week or so after graduation from Utah, and I just remember how exhilarating that was to know that they trusted me. And we cried all the way to the airport, and it was so hard to go, but I always just felt that they always just had confidence in me, and were always there to support me in my decisions, and weren't trying to govern my life for me or tell me what to do. Yeah, sorry, that was kind of long-winded.
No, I think that was great. There's a couple things that you said. One of it was your mom, how she said, like, the greatest thing was that you guys had confidence to walk. In general, kind of just to remain in the gospel, right? My mom always says the same thing. If there's one thing you'll ever remember is that you knew that I had a firm testimony in the Lord, and that not that you had the same testimony as me, but that you remained faithful in the gospel. And I think now that we're older and we can kind of understand the importance of the gospel, even though I don't have kids yet, I think that'll be one of the most important things that I hope that my kids will be able to obtain from the way that I parent and who I am, so that they'll be able to go in building testimony within the gospel. And then the second thing you said, I loved the example you gave of just like going on a road trip. Sometimes my parents would say things, like, no, you absolutely cannot go. But then sometimes, even though my parents knew that it might be a situation where I might fail at something, or I might be doing something wrong, or it could go totally well or could go totally wrong, they always trusted me. And I think that is like so important within parenting, within any relationship, that you trust someone and that in return they feel trusted. So it just like reminded me, as you were speaking, I totally was just reminded of my mom, everything that she ever, and my dad, everything that they ever taught me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's so empowering when we know that we have their trust, and we want to live up to their expectations that they've set, because we're not, forced or coerced into it. So that's great.
Yeah, I liked how you mentioned having a balance that your stepdad has, and man, if there's like one life theme that I could share with everybody besides the gospel, it would just be to have a balanced life. Like, it is so easy to lose the balance, and for me, this is something that a self-taught lesson that I felt that I learned from my mission. That was like one of my biggest aha moments that I've ever had, was keep a balance in your life. And for me, if I lose that balance, then I don't feel like I'm living the gospel, because I'm putting emphasis on something more than another, and it shouldn't be like that for me. So I appreciate you sharing that, especially when we're parenting, is to make sure that we have a balance between work, school, playtime, and if we start losing balance in one area, we need to reevaluate and make changes. So the other thing that I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the whole being consistent. I don't know if I mentioned it in previous meetings, but that's one of the things Elder Bednar talked about with his family. And he asked his kids when they were grown, hey, what do you guys remember about, living the gospel? And that was their answer, is you guys were consistent in what you did. They didn't specifically remember a family home evening or, a special sacrament meeting. It was just that their parents were consistent in praying and reading scriptures, and they said, that's what's needed. Elder Bednar, that's what people need. That's what the children need, is that consistency, and that's what they'll remember. So, well, my question that I did was about the research questions, and I found two that I liked. I've been thinking about lately how mothers, especially today, outside the gospel, when they decide to have children, and then the father just disappears, and a lot of mothers think, well, I don't need the father anyway. I can do this on my own, and that's all I need. So I was looking at some articles that centered around that, about the difference in children when the father is there and when it's only the mother. And in one of the articles that I found, it's called Executive Function in Children. And I was like, well, what's executive function? I don't know what that is. But it says here, an important aspect of cognitive development that has gained increasing prominence in recent years is executive function. EF, or executive function, refers to the process used when controlling one's own behavior to achieve a goal. And this article just talks about the differences between just a mother raising the child and their cognitive development, whereas when the father is there, they do much better when they are reacting emotionally. Certain skills and capabilities that they can learn in younger years have to do with the father being there. And so I just wanted to read just a little bit of the findings. It says, the findings of the study that both mother and father figure parenting can influence EF have direct applicability to promoting success for children. EF is increasingly being recognized as a key capacity of children that is crucial for personal and societal success. And I thought that was interesting, coming from a scientific point of view, not from a gospel point of view, that mother and father are needed in every situation. Obviously, there's other circumstances that will intermit that model of mother and father, but for the ideal scientific view of a child, they need mom and dad. So I don't know if that made sense or not, but the other one that I found is titled Fathers Matter. And I just wanted to summarize what it says here. It says, research suggests that more American children are growing up without their biological father in the home than at any point in our nation's history, and the rate of father absence continues to grow. The article just goes on to talk about how important it is that, once again, that the father is there, and social workers are now trying to have the approach that, we're not just there to help the mother and child. We need to find the father, whether he's, out of the state or not in contact with the mother anymore. We need to find the father and make sure that they have some type of relationship with the child. And I thought that was interesting, how That's changed from previous years. They just focus on the mother and child, and that's it. But now they're saying, the father is important. He needs to be in the picture, whether they get along or not, the parents. And I'm excited to see the research that comes out in the future about fathers, because I think it's an important, it's important to the future. I know that not necessarily within the church, but in the world, we have more of a feminist view now amongst women, and fathers are just kind of being very passive, I think, about it all. And I hope when I do get a degree that I'll be able to focus on the area of fatherhood and helping fathers really be fathers. So yeah, that was my question that I did. Who did I do it with? Obviously, it was just me. What I learned from the activity is that not only from a gospel perspective, mothers and fathers are needed, but from a scientific view as well. And I know in the question it say that there's contrary evidence that the opposite is true, but I think through my research that I've found more articles supporting it than against it, and I think that's going to continue in years to come. What did I teach other individuals? Well, I taught myself. What can I say? This is one of the ones that you just kind of do by yourself, and I'm sharing it with you guys now. So overall experience, I love finding research articles about family. It just interests me so much, and I'll say it again, that you can find so much truth from a scientific point of view that the gospel already proves. And I don't know, it takes science so much longer to get there, but the gospel's had it forever. And when science finally finds it, they're like, oh yeah, hey, we found this. This is awesome. We have, a large sample size, lots of evidence. And here we are in the gospel. Oh yeah, we knew that 100 years ago, So yeah, that was my experience with that activity.
That's cool. I think, yeah, I love what you said, that the gospel is just parallel to fact and truth. And oftentimes it's realized long before the scientists, catch on to it. And I think, like you mentioned too, there's always contradicting articles and whatever it may be. But I think overall, like, there is more just fact and truth behind secularly from scientists than there are on the contrary when it comes to things parallel with the gospel. So that's
I thought the same thing. I was gonna say similar, like the same thing as Jamie did. But that it's cool sometimes to find things that, like factual things, like from a worldly perspective, and to see how they correlate with the gospel. Because I feel like a lot of things nowadays usually go against what we believe. But it's cool to see when they do how the prophets have warned us, obviously. But in this sense, how in the proclamation, talks about a fatherly role and a motherly role and the importance of having it. And now we're faced with this this trend of same-sex marriages and stuff, and the loss that we have now in like having a mother and a father raise children. But it's cool to see that not just from like a spiritual standpoint of what God has said, but more of like a worldly standpoint that children end up having cognitive problems because of lack of a parent or an influence. And so I think as I kind of like get off topic sometimes when we're studying for this class, I kind of like keep clicking on different things to keep on like searching and researching stuff, because I think it's just so interesting. And that what you just shared, Tony, was something kind of similar that what I kind of ended up getting into. And it was just, I get so excited, and I was like showing my husband, like, look at this, like this is so cool. And so my husband actually talked about kind of what you said about fatherhood and stuff like that. about what you talked about. My husband and I talked about it this week, so that was really cool that you just mentioned that. But
Yeah, it's just I think it's just something that's put on the back burner, you know. I think the world sees fathers as, they're just fathers. They work, they provide for the family most of the time, and that's it, you know. But they don't really focus on how important their role is. And I think it just gets pushed further and further away. And I really hope to help change the world's view about that in the future. But we'll see.
one day at a time.
Yeah, one father at a time.
One father at a time. That's true.
Cool. Well, great discussion, cool activities. I love it when we all end up doing different activities too. I think it provides
I
good
know.
insight.
It's almost like they all did 3 activities, and by the end, everyone starts discussing it. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, I decided that even though I love doing the activities with my wife, I should probably do more of a variety. I'll probably learn more that way. Well, I don't know. I learn a lot from my wife, but
Well, my husband always says, "What days am I taking this?" Oh, balance. That's true.
that's right.
That is so funny. Yeah, my husband always wonders if he's actually doing the course because I ask him to do so many things with me, or if I am.
I know. I feel like every other activity is like, coordinating with someone or coordinating
Yeah.
with me, like it's with my parents. I'm like, okay, this is like only halfway through, and I feel like this might be a little overkill for them.
And they're done helping. That's funny. Did you record this, Tony?
I did. What I'm actually gonna do, I'm gonna post it here and I'll leave her a message and I'll also send her an email of it, and then I'll just if she wants to respond back with what she did, awesome. I'll just ask her to send out in an email what she did, and we'll be able to.
Are you gonna add us onto that, or are you gonna forward it to?
Oh, I can add you onto it. It's fine.
Okay, just so we know when she posts it and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I'll forward it. I don't know. Whichever's easiest.
Yeah, whatever you think's easiest. That's fine.
I'll probably just forward it. Okay.
Sounds good.
Well, I will stop
Right.
recording then. Let me see.
Have a good week.
All right, you too.
Yeah, everybody. Thank you for doing this, guys.
Yep, no problem. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye.